I just have a day pack on though. This moose came up onto the trail and started following me. It wasn't threatening me, just curious. I ducked into a thick stand of trees where it couldn't follow. It stopped, waited, got bored, and moseyed back across the beaver ponds. I'm standing about a mile east of my camp, at the junctions of Little Pass Creek, Castle Pass, and the Lowline trails. Here I'm on the trail to Costo Lake. Castle Creek is below me. My camp is just across this valley and off to the left. Barely a quarter of a mile away as the crow flies from where I'm standing. Bushwhacking the valley and trying to cross the creek is not impossible, but would be daunting. The actual trail to Lake Costo is 3 miles. Here is an outfitter's or hunter's camp. Take note of the horizontal logs tied to the trees for later in this video. This picture shows some of the dike systems on the sides of the castles. These mountains are mostly ancient volcanics. The first time I passed this herd, the bull was not around, but coming back he was smack in the middle of the trail. According to one of the cowhands I spoke to, all the bulls from this ranch are sweethearts, but I wasn't going to go up to them to find out. Had to go way off trail because of that dude. Another hike up to Costo Lake. I saw the logs that were tied up to these trees had been cut down. The trees were being strangled after so many years of having rope tied tightly around them. The invasion begins. A few here, a few there. Eventually this became a herd of 100 head of cows and calves in my front yard. I had to crisscross this meadow 3 times before I finally picked up the trail again. And that little piece of trash I found makes a pretty good marker for now, and I'll pack it out. I know what's ahead of me here is a whole bunch of elevation gain. But the trail is so faint I keep losing it. This reminds me a lot of Washoe Gulch, where you walk 10 feet, lose the trail, bushwhack, find the trail, walk another 10 feet, repeat. I came back to camp to find this. One of my tarp stakes stomped on by a cow. My tent actually survived the cow invasion. I'd surrounded it with logs and rocks to protect it. The tarp, I pulled out all the lines but left the stakes in the ground. That was a mistake. All the tarp stakes were bent by the cows coming through my camp. That night I spent 2 hours driving about 40 head of cattle down the valley. I still had several dozen stray bulls, cows, and calves that hung around camp or dispersed up Castle Pass and towards the cross. I did learn a few things about this herd. They're incredibly stealthy. They can sneak up behind you and you wouldn't know they were there until you hear them breathing. They have an insatiable curiosity. They want to be so close to you and watch what you're doing. And if you chase them off, within minutes they're right back behind you. And they try to hide behind trees and pretend they're invisible. Castle Creek, way down at the bottom of this steep hill. This is a permanent outfitters camp outside of the wilderness area. I was coming back from fishing Castle Creek when 4 cowboys, the foreman, 3 hired hands, drove about 30 head of cattle into the area just outside the wilderness. They then rode up the trail to drive all the cattle out of the valleys above my camp. The ranches have a permit to run cattle into the wilderness, but not this soon in the season. The foreman, as well as an outfitter I'd met the day before, said that someone had left the gate open and allowed the cattle to roam where they should not have been. Please ignore my clumsy finger in the way there. This is how the professionals do it. The guy in the lead has been apparently working for this rancher for about 45, 50 years. Got 3 or 4 cattle dogs with him too. Every day the thunderstorms work their way down to Gunnison Valley. The mountain to the right of Middle is Carbon Peak. The trailhead where I parked is at the peak's base, 6 miles away hiking, 5 miles as the crow flies. Last night there was a big rainstorm. Here I'm drying out the rain fly and the tarp. Everything else stayed dry inside the tent.